Have you ever wondered what makes certain social movements, well, not just stick around, but really thrive and actually transform millions of lives across the globe? Today, we're doing just that. We're taking a deep dive into the fascinating world of Alcoholics Anonymous. Specifically, we're exploring its foundational text, which members affectionately call the Big Book.
That's right. We're looking at the fourth edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, published back in 2001. But the original, wow, that first appeared way back in 1939. It's seen immense circulation since then, translations into dozens of languages. It really is a key guide for, anyone seeking sobriety, packed with history and some incredibly raw personal accounts.
Okay, so our mission for you today is to really pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge and maybe some truly surprising insights from this really influential volume. We'll explore its maybe unexpected origins, its core philosophy, and yeah, those compelling personal journeys and details, basically offering you a comprehensive understanding without, drowning you in information. So it's fascinating when you think about how such a huge movement actually got started. Where did that initial spark for Alcoholics Anonymous really come from? It wasn't some grand meeting hall, was it?
No, not at all. You're right. It was much more humble. The spark that ignited AA was really struck in Akron, Ohio. This was June 1935. And happened during a pivotal conversation between a New York stockbroker and an Akron physician.
Right, the stockbroker, Bill Wilson. And he'd found relief from his own drinking obsession through what the book calls a sudden spiritual experience. He was heavily influenced by the Oxford groups. They had this big emphasis on things like moral inventory, restitution.
Yes, exactly. Moral inventory, confession of personality defects, making restitution to people you'd harmed, helpfulness to others, and, importantly, a necessity of belief in and dependence upon God or a higher power.
What's maybe surprising about that influence?
Well, I think the surprise for many is just how spiritually inclined these groups were, focused on honest self-appraisal, turning one's life over. It's maybe not what you'd immediately expect as the direct precursor to a global recovery program. Another really critical early influence was Dr. William D. Silkworth, a New York alcoholism specialist.
Ah, yes, the medical scene.
That's what AA members call him now, yeah. And for good reason. He really solidified this understanding that the alcoholic's body is, quite as abnormal as his mind. He saw the physical component. He noticed how traditional methods, they often failed. But he also saw that these vital spiritual experiences, they could lead to what he called huge emotional displacements, like a complete shift in perspective.
Okay, so from these really personal, almost, grassroots insights, a whole set of guiding principles emerged for this new fellowship. What's particularly insightful, or maybe even a bit counterintuitive, about how AA decided to structure itself, especially considering its incredible global scale today?
That's a great question, because it really does challenge, conventional ideas about organization. For instance, the basic idea that no alcoholic could be excluded, no matter their background. That was pretty radical. And maybe even more remarkably, leaders serve, but they never govern.
Right.
Groups are autonomous. Therapy is non-professional. And think about this. AA has no fees or dues. It relies solely on voluntary contributions. Their public relations approach is based on attraction rather than promotion. They maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, TV, films. And crucially, AA avoids endorsements, alliances, public controversies. That's arguably been key to its survival and growth.
And clearly, this distinct and, let's be honest, pretty unusual approach has resonated massively. By 2001, worldwide membership had doubled to, 2 million or more?
Yeah, roughly. With nearly 100,800 groups meeting in about 150 countries.
And the Big Book itself, translated into 43 languages by then, it's just, a testament to these principles, isn't it?
It really is.
Now, one of the most fundamental and maybe surprising ways the Big Book talks about the problem of alcoholism is how it challenges our usual understanding of control and, addiction. How does it paint that picture of the real alcoholic?
It's quite stark, actually. The text describes the real alcoholic as someone who begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is how it details them doing these absurd, incredible, tragic things while drinking, often becoming insanely drunk, dangerously antisocial. Even if they're often intelligent, well-balanced people in other parts of their life, they possess, and this is a great phrase, a positive genius for getting tight at exactly the wrong moment. And even for those who claim they can manage without it, the book suggests they're kind of whistling in the dark, unable to truly picture life without alcohol. which, if they can't drink or stay sober, can lead to this profound loneliness.
So it's not just framed as a lack of moral willpower. It's presented as a genuine, disconnect in reasoning. How revolutionary was that idea back then? That the core problem wasn't just physical, but centered more in the mind, especially when it comes to the, quote, insanity of taking that first drink.
Oh, it's incredibly revolutionary, and it's a concept that really stands out even today. The book describes this curious mental phenomenon where, despite really knowing the dire consequences through sound reasoning, some insanely trivial excuse inevitably wins out and they take that first drink.
Right.
Take Jim, the salesman example. Good salesman. He gets committed for violence because of his drinking, and afterwards, he genuinely thought he could safely drink whiskey if only he mixed it with milk.
Milk. Wow.
Yeah. The book calls it plain insanity because of the just appalling lack of straight thinking. Or Fred, another example. He was absolutely convinced he had to stop drinking, had splendid judgment in all the areas of life, but still, he found himself unable to resist. He admitted, I made no fight whatever against the first drink. And get this, what I had learned of alcoholism did not occur to me at all. Just blanked it out.
It just didn't register in the moment. These examples really highlight what the book calls the hopeless condition of mind and body that many alcoholics face, where willpower and self-knowledge on their own are just insufficient, leading them to believe recovery is truly beyond human aid.
Okay, so if willpower and self-knowledge aren't the answer, what does the big book propose as the pathway to recovery? It talks about this profound internal shift, often called a spiritual experience. How does it approach that concept, especially, for someone who might not identify as religious or even spiritual? It's surprisingly inclusive, actually. Bill's own story is a powerful illustration. He already had some belief in a higher power, but it was his friend's suggestion. Why don't you choose your own conception of God? That phrase, it just melted the icy intellectual mountain he felt he was living under. He realized it was, fundamentally, only a matter of being willing to believe in a power greater than myself. Nothing more was required of me to make my beginning. That willingness, that was the absolute key.
And the impact of accepting that for Bill, it sounds like it was immediate, described as electric. He felt an instant sense of victory, followed by such a peace and serenity as I had never known, and utter confidence. Sounds incredibly sudden, profound. But does the book suggest everyone has that kind of, lightning bolt moment?
No, not at all. That's important. While Bill's experience was sudden, the book makes it clear. It says many of our experiences are what the psychologist William James calls the educational variety, meaning they develop slowly over a period of time, kind of gradually dawn on you.
Okay, more of a slow burn.
Exactly. But the essentials, they remain the same. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness. There's this recurring question posed in the book, who are you to say there is no God? And that's shown to be a real catalyst for many people, just to open up to the idea of a higher power, whatever that might mean for them.
That's a crucial point, because many people, maybe atheists, agnostics, they might hear spiritual experience and immediately feel like, okay, this isn't for me. How does the big book specifically speak to them?
It speaks to them very directly. It actually notes that about half our original fellowship were of exactly that type, atheist or agnostic. It suggests, quite bluntly, that alcohol was a great persuader. It finally beat us into a state of reasonableness on spiritual matters.
Necessity is the mother of invention, or openness in this case.
Sort of, yeah. And crucially, it emphasizes that how a person conceives of this power seems to make little difference for the program's purpose. The core shift isn't about adopting some rigid dogma. It's about moving from self-centeredness, from being egocentric, to, quitting playing God and accepting a higher power as the director of one's life. And this, in turn, allows people to become less and less interested in ourselves and more interested in seeing what we could contribute to life, a fundamental shift outwards.
Right. So this transformation, it isn't just about belief then, it's about tangible, practical action. The book outlines what it calls a simple kit of spiritual tools for daily living. Where does someone even start with those tools?
It really begins with a profound decision, which is captured in what's known as step 3. It involves a prayer or an affirmation for some. God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. In essence, it represents a decision to, abandon oneself utterly to this higher power as you understand it.
Okay, so it's about a complete surrender of self-will to, let's say, a higher purpose or guiding principle. And immediately after that, the book introduces step 4, which sounds pretty rigorous. What is this strenuous effort to face and to be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us? Why is that so vital?
It's vital because the book makes this really striking point. Our liquor was but a symptom. The real underlying issues, the things blocking that connection to a higher power or just to a healthier life, they had to be addressed. This personal inventory, step 4, it's likened to a business taking stock. It's a fact-finding and a fact-facing process, looking honestly at yourself to identify and discard the damaged or unsaleable goods within.
Okay, like resentments.
Exactly. It often involves analyzing these deep-seated resentments against individuals, employers, spouses, maybe even institutions. And interestingly, noting how fear frequently underlies these resentments. The book really emphasizes that for the alcoholic, holding on to resentments is infinitely grave, even fatal.
Fatal, that's strong language.
It is, because as the book sees it, resentment shuts ourselves off from the sunlight of the spirit, and it allows the insanity of alcohol to creep back in, leading back to drinking and, potentially death.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just about identifying the issues, but actively working to clear them out. The text stresses that faith alone is insufficient. What does it mean when it says, to be vital, faith must be accompanied by self-sacrifice and unselfish constructive action?
It means that true recovery, in this view, isn't passive. You can't just believe your way out of it. It demands active participation. This includes making amends where we have done harm. But, and this is a crucial caution, not if doing so would bring about still more harm. You have to use judgment.
Right. Practical wisdom needed there.
Absolutely. It's about a demonstration of goodwill.
Yeah.
It's not just talking about your spiritual discoveries. The proof is in the actions you take. Actions to set things right and to live differently moving forward.
And this transformation described in the big book, it's not just internal, is it? It dramatically impacts relationships, daily life. It really extends beyond the individual. How does it paint the picture of the alcoholic's past impact on others? And what's the path forward suggested for families?
Oh, it paints a vivid picture. It describes the alcoholic as a tornado roaring his way through the lives of others, leaving behind broken hearts and dead relationships. It doesn't pull punches. So sobriety alone, just stopping drinking, isn't seen as enough. There's a long period of reconstruction ahead. Families are encouraged to basically clean house themselves emotionally without criticism and to seek patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love, perhaps through their own daily meditation or reflection.
And for partners, especially wives are mentioned often in the original text, the advice is quite direct, maybe even surprising today. It suggests not to set your heart on reforming your husband. What's the deeper message there, do you think? And what kind of support does the book suggest for them?
Well, I think the deeper message is about letting the alcoholic own their recovery journey. You can't force it. Partners are encouraged to try and understand his illness, to avoid criticism, and to patiently promote better understanding all around, allowing him to bring up his problem himself when he's ready. The text even suggests, and this is often startling for people to read, that a husband losing his job due to drinking may prove a blessing.
A blessing. How so?
If, and it's a big if it helps him hit that bottom, find humility, and maybe find a spiritual path as a result, it's a tough perspective.
That is a very different perspective on what most would see as just a disaster. Now, a really consistent theme throughout the book is that sobriety is best maintained by helping other alcoholics. Why is that considered so crucial for ongoing recovery?
Because, as the book puts it, our very lives depend upon our constant thought of others and how we may help meet their needs. Work with another alcoholic would save the day. It shifts the focus away from self-pity or self-obsession. This often becomes actually a profound source of joy. Giving peace of mind to others by sharing the solution that worked for you, it directly counters that self-centered mindset that fueled the drinking.
Right. And it also offers some practical advice for navigating life sober. It notes that members can attend social events where there's drinking, provided they have a good social, business, or personal reason and feel like they're on solid spiritual ground. What's the shift in focus there?
The focus shifts dramatically. It moves from asking, what can I get out of this occasion, to asking, what can I bring to it? It's a profound internal change, from taking to contributing. And the book also gives advice to employers, which was quite forward-thinking.
What does it say?
It states that alcoholics, when they're sober, are often brilliant, fast-thinking, imaginative, and likable, and therefore worth salvaging. They deserve the same consideration as other ailing employees. It even suggests that recovered alcoholics, even those in, relatively unimportant jobs, can be valuable resources. They can talk to other struggling employees, emphasizing radical honesty, which of course builds trust.
That is really interesting, thinking about the workplace impact. Now, what's truly fascinating, I think, is how varied the individual paths to this solution are. Yet the underlying principles, they seem constant. We see these striking rock-bottom moments in the personal stories section. They really illustrate the disease's grip across all walks of life. Could you share a few examples that really stick out from the book?
Absolutely. The stories section is incredibly powerful. There's the story of the author-editor, a respectable, accomplished man. He experienced such despair during a binge that he smashed his dining room furniture to splinters. And he realized that his knowledge, science, none of it could put him together again.
Wow. Just complete loss of control.
Total. Or take the housewife who drank at home. Despite loving her children deeply, she found herself taping keyholes, paranoia setting in, having cold sweats, hallucinations. It just shows how the disease can completely isolate and warp your perception, even within the supposed safety of your own home.
It's truly striking how different those circumstances are. A respected author, a housewife. What's the kind of unifying insight that emerges from these profoundly different rock-bottom moments you read about?
I think the common thread is always the utter powerlessness over alcohol once they start. It doesn't matter about your social status, your intelligence, how much you love your family. The disease, as described here, will eventually take everything if it's left unchecked. We also hear from the DJ Storm Chaser. This one's wild.
Go on.
He confessed to ad-libbing live storm reports while drunk, just sitting on his back patio, and even rushing to the scenes of alcohol-related accidents, more intoxicated than the people who caused them. His sobriety journey actually began in prison with the realization, knowing who I really don't want to be.
That one's particularly unsettling. The level of self-deception and, frankly, danger involved. What about some of the younger examples? Or those who seemed outwardly successful?
Yeah, there's the college student, only 19 years old, walked clean through a second-story window while drunk,
Oh my gosh.
and then became, in his words, the single most obnoxious person in the emergency room. He later realized his whole life had been this struggle trying to be an orange when he was inherently an apple, trying to be someone he wasn't. Then there's the former executive. The story's titled Crossing the River of Denial. This guy had a six-figure income, owned a car phone with ice cubes, which was a big deal back then.
Right, status symbol.
Totally. But he couldn't deny his alcoholism after this epiphany at a hockey game. He realized he couldn't control when he enjoyed his drinking, and he couldn't enjoy it when he tried to control it. That classic conundrum.
These really drive home that point, don't they? Status offers absolutely no protection. It's a disease that can touch anyone. Any other stories that are particularly poignant?
Yes, definitely. The pilot, story titled Grounded, an accomplished professional aviator. His drinking led him to federal prison. But later, he found profound gratitude. Gratitude for his alcoholism and the program of recovery it forced me into.
Yeah.
Because it led him to a life that, he says, far exceeds anything I had previously known.
Incredible turnaround.
And finally, the really powerful story of a woman who lived only to drink. Actually, it's a man's story. Despite the title structure, sometimes used a minister's son, excelled in school initially, but later ended up selling blood, involved in prostitution, became homeless. Just total devastation. And despite his initial rejection of AA members, he said these people were white, and he felt he was black and bright, separate. He eventually found that their same sickness, the alcoholism, unites people far beyond any superficial differences.
These are just incredibly powerful individual stories. And despite all their unique circumstances, they consistently converge on this one common realization, don't they? That for the alcoholic, willpower just isn't enough. Self-knowledge alone fails. And the solution often requires something profound, a personal spiritual experience, however you define that, and a willingness to accept help from a power greater than oneself, and crucially, from the fellowship of others who understand.
So this isn't some kind of program you just graduate from, is it? It sounds like it's really presented as a profound shift in how you navigate life itself, ongoing.
Exactly. The book is very clear on this point. It states, AA is not a plan for recovery that can be finished and done with. It is a way of life, and the challenge contained in its principles is great enough to keep any human being striving for as long as he lives.
Right. And that's why concepts like one day at a time are so vital, I suppose. It's about just keeping one foot in front of the other, focusing on the present moment, continuously taking action. What are the kind of lasting benefits described for those who embrace this continuous effort? The book describes the dividends as tremendous. Things like courage, self-assurance, an honest appraisal of your own abilities, a fortune in friendships, it says, and the love and understanding of a gracious God, again, is individually understood. That awful ache of aloneness, which it suggests is so deep in the heart of every alcoholic, is gone and never need return again. That's a pretty powerful promise.
That really is. And so many of the stories really underscore that transformative power of fellowship, of connection. As one member put it, AA put a we in my life.
We admitted we were powerless over alcohol. I no longer had to be alone. That sense of shared experience is key.
Well, our deep dive today into Alcoholics Anonymous, the big book, has truly shown, I think, the immense power of that shared experience and the power of a sustained commitment to personal transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. We've learned that alcoholism is presented as this complex disease, way beyond simple willpower. That a spiritual awakening, however you understand that term, can be a really profound catalyst for change. And that continuous action, and especially service to others, seem integral to sustained sobriety and, well, building a richer life. The message of hope and freedom, it really does resonate through every page.
So whether you're just curious about this profound global movement, maybe you know someone involved, or perhaps you're even seeking a pathway through your own challenges, whatever they may be, the stories and the principles within this big book offer a really powerful testament to our human capacity for change and for connection.
And maybe this raises an important question for you listening right now. In what areas of your own life might that combination of willingness and action? Might that be the key to unlocking what the big book calls a fourth dimension of existence? You know, a kind of profound spiritual awareness and freedom that transcends ordinary life, one you hadn't even dreamed of.